I'm aware that exams are coming up, and I did want to spend some time uploading some new content for you in the hope that you'll find it useful. As you will see from the front cover here, I'm talking about Lit B, A-level for AQA, and about what students need to do in order to get a band 3. So I want to go through the challenges that students face in terms of what maybe prevents them from getting to band 4 or band 5, but also showing you what work needs to be like in order to get a band 3. Band 3 is really important in terms of the mark scheme for this course, which I'll explain a bit later. I want to start though by reminding you of the 5 bands that make up the mark scheme for all papers, and also the adjectives which are used by teachers and examiners to help signpost the essay or their students' work to the correct band. And these have been the same now for 11 years. I've taught Lit B for the entirety of the course since it came in 2015. So these words are ingrained on my memory. And when I'm marking my own students' work or doing my own examining work in the summer, these words are always my go-to because they help me determine what mark to give learners. I just want to talk briefly about some key points that the mark scheme brings up. And the first is about placing work in the correct part of the band. So work that is placed at the top of bands securely addresses all of the skills within that band. But work that is put towards the bottom of the band means that they have demonstrated securely all of the descriptors for the band below, but are only starting to show kind of evidence that they are addressing the bands in that particular band, if that makes sense. So let me put it another way. If you're getting 11 out of 25, bottom of band 3, it means that you're beginning to show band 3 working, but it also means you have securely demonstrated everything you need to do for band 2. So that's important to bear in mind in terms of where do you go in the band. Is it top of the band, low, middle of the band, bottom of the band, etc. The other thing I want to bring to your attention is about what happens if you have students that have a mixture of bands, and that's often the case with English. Sometimes a student might make a really coherent point, which is band 4, but that's also mixed in with a lot of generalised comments, which is band 2, and the question then is, well, where do you put it? And this best fit rule applies. The examiner uses their own judgment and I suppose puts the work in the part of the mark scheme which is a bit of an average of both of those. So if you've got evidence of band 4 and evidence of band 2, chances are you might end up getting a band 3 to make up for the fact you've got a bit of a spread there of marks. Finally, in terms of grades, one of the most common questions I get asked as a teacher, but also as an examiner, is what grade is this? And it's very difficult to give an answer because those grade boundaries change and the bands themselves aren't in line with the grade boundaries. So we can't say that a band 5 always means A grade because that's not necessarily the case. So if you want to know your grade, the only thing you can do is really look at historical grade boundaries from last year or the year before to give you some idea. But it's very difficult for us to equate a band to a grade because it doesn't work like that. So I want to spend some time now talking to you about the struggles that students face. And this might limit them in terms of it means that they struggle to get into band 4 or band 5. Or even the top of band 3. So usually students will struggle because they don't know the text well, and that's pretty obvious. This is a course about texts at the end of the day, and if you can't talk about them because you don't know them, that's the quickest way to lose marks. So characteristic of band 1 or band 2 writing is that they don't know texts well enough. The students don't know the text well. They might not know what a character does, or they might not understand the language or the themes or what happens. So in the spotlight always is the texts for Lit B. Sometimes students don't focus on the question set and they went off task. In an open book, they don't consult the text enough in the open book exam. There's an unspoken agreement with the examiner that you have with open book exams, which is paper 2, which is if you are permitted the text in front of you, you are expected to reference them more. So you need to get into the habit of using them in the exam and finding that information. Sometimes context has been forced into responses, but it has a tenuous link to the task. In other words, if what you're saying about social and historical context has nothing to do with the task, I don't really need to know about it. So don't feel you just need to put it in because it's a assessment objective. It has to be relevant to what you're saying and your argument in relation to the task. Writing frames, as I've said in previous videos, are restrictive for A-level and can limit the student's coherence. They might work better for GCSE, but for A-level there is no clear checklist, and there are several different ways of getting a Band 5 essay in English at A-level. There isn't just one way. So it's subjective, and that's why writing frames can be restrictive, because it prevents the student from developing their own voice. It's worth noting as well, in terms of style, that students can write in a very articulate way, but if what they're writing is not relevant to the task, it is still hard to go above Band 3. So at the end of the day, answering the task and kind of having that relevance is the most important thing. So Band 3 is a very important band in the marks scheme. It's the halfway point. We're talking here about work that is relevant and work that is also straightforward. So it answers the task and it also has clear ideas. If it is neither of those things, it could go down to Band 2. But if it's more confident than that, if answers are coherent or developed or perceptive or assured, then it can go into Band 4 or Band 5. But whether or not you go into Band 4 or Band 5 will depend on whether Band 3 has been satisfied first. So Band 3 is essentially where all students start. If you answer the question, you have to be awarded Band 3, is what I say to my students, because if you're answering the question, it's relevant, and relevant is an adjective used for Band 3, so it can't get below 11. Band 3 is also characterised by appropriate and supportive textual detail. The student will start to show an emerging argument or discussion in relation to the task. Their ideas will be ordered sensibly, and there will also be some consideration of methods and meanings, which is AO2, of course. If the student is not doing these things, they do run the risk of being awarded a Band 2 instead, because they have not demonstrated these things. So these are the things that students need to do in order to get at least a Band 3. And I always say to students, you should not judge your success by other people. If your predicted grade is a D or a C, and that's around a Band 3, then that is something that is fantastic and something that should be celebrated. It would be untrue of me to say that all students are going to achieve top marks, because that's not what exams tell us, unfortunately. So everyone needs to know exactly what they're aiming for. Of course, it's great to have aspirations, but it's also what do you need, what do you want? And if you wanted to see grade, then satisfying Band 3 is the place to start, roughly speaking. The final slide then is tips to overcome these challenges, because it's all very well knowing the challenges, but at the end of the day we need to improve on them and make sure we overcome them. So these are my suggestions. Read the text several times. I can't stress that enough. You are doing essentially an English literature course. The assumption is you like reading. I don't want to hear students doing English literature who tell me they don't read books. That is odd. It's like a student studying medicine saying they don't like to touch the human body. It's like, or they don't like biology. Thinking, hang on a minute, Okay, so just give yourself a break. Do yourself a favour. Read the text several times. In that exam, circle the keywords several times so you know exactly what it is you're talking about. And repeat those keywords in every paragraph that you write, particularly at the beginning of the paragraph and perhaps at the end as topic and concluding sentences. Why? Because it not only shows the examiner you're talking about what you've been asked to talk about, so you're relevantly speaking, but it also helps you sieve out and filter out stuff that might be irrelevant. Develop your points in sufficient detail, and that of course depends on you reading the text and knowing the texts. If you don't know the text, you won't be able to write in detail. And kind of a breakthrough moment was when I realised it's the extent that ideas are developed that's rewarded. So if you're looking at band 4 or band 5, coherent or perceptive, those terms are often describing the level of depth the student goes into, avoiding making simple comments. I use with my students what I call a development grid, and it encourages them to develop their ideas and keep the point going, conveying that depth of understanding at the same time. In open books, you need to get into the habit of using the book as you write. So I say to students, you need your book open on your left, if you're right-handed, and your answer paper on the right. So as you're writing, you are consulting the text. That's what I would do. You can, of course, consult the text all at one go in the beginning. I'm not quite sure if that works as well, though. And it's very positive when I'm doing an open book exam with students that they are consulting the text as they write. They're getting to grips with the text and its details. You must do that for open book exams, paper 2. Read past mark schemes. It's always interesting to me that students sit these exams without ever having seen a mark scheme, which is odd to me because they're the ones doing, the course. So why wouldn't they want to see the credentials and the success criteria, and I suppose the rules that they are being marked against? So I would, and these are available online, you can find them quite easily. Read past mark schemes, look at what examiners are told, look at what they are crediting you with, look at what they're not crediting. You have to sometimes see beyond the texts and look at how the course is structured and managed in order to succeed with it. And finally, write clearly using a sensible paragraph structure while also beginning to convey your view. So, for example, in the to what extent do you agree questions, or questions that include the word significance, it's all about you developing an angle. It's about developing a viewpoint. And for band 3, it's about you beginning to start to do that. If you get band 4 or band 5, of course, you'll be doing that more confidently. But yes, coherence and writing clearly in a sensible paragraph structure where everything flows together nicely and clearly and relevantly is often the key to achieve band 3. So this video was all about band 3 and how important band 3 is. You will not get into band 4 or band 5 without addressing band 3 first. So knowing about band 3 is really important, and also knowing how to overcome the challenges and the struggles that students may face. Thank you for watching, and I'll speak to you soon.